Hello again, guys, and welcome back to another Big Al Devlin video, and welcome back to the House of Devlin. Thank you very much. Your views are very much appreciated. This is a pagan video, and it's going to be dealing with the concept of magic. It's the first of our magical series, so to speak, or pagan magic series. Now, I first of all want to. This is the sort of things that I want to sort of address within this video, and I've made a few attempts already at this video, and my video has been evolving, and I hope that this is going to be the last and final take, because what I really want is to tell you guys, or at least have you understand exactly what magic within paganism is, and the beauty of it in its own way. I don't want you to be focused on, yes, you can cast curses, you can give blessings, you can cause healing and all the rest of it. I don't want you focusing on spells or trances or anything along these lines, which do exist within paganistic magics. Forget about them for the time being. That's for very advanced individuals who understand the basic premise of what magic is. Okay, and this is where we're going to start our story. It might take more than just one video. You're going to have to be patient with me, because my understanding of magic is growing with yours. This is a new subject to me, and so as I'm teaching you, I'm also in theory teaching myself, and that's the whole point of everything, isn't it? Is that wisdom is earned. Okay, wisdom is earned, and you can choose then to share it or not, but I choose to share it, because in return you may share wisdom with me, and I will learn further and further and further. But just the sheer process of sharing my wisdom or newfound wisdom with yourselves on such subjects such as magic, for example, gets me at least thinking about things that I perhaps wouldn't have thought, without speaking it out aloud, without asking certain questions that I ask myself within these videos, in the preparation for the videos, for example. Or and the way that when I present a video, I go, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't think about that. Or I'll do a retake like I've just done twice. I've been here an hour already talking about magic. Let's get this over and done with. I don't want to be here another hour. I want this to be a fairly quick video, guys. But basically, consider this. First of all, I want to do two things. I want to dismiss what magic isn't. There is a common conception amongst the majority of people of what magic is in today's world. Okay, it's one of two things. I'll dismiss them, and I will completely poo-poo them. I mean, like, no, it's not this. It's not this at all. Then some may be loosely based upon pagan magic, but this is not magic within paganism. We're not idiots. Okay, so don't treat us like idiots. Okay, and that is, first of all, we can't throw fireballs out of our fists or build castles of ice instantly just by raising our hands. We can't bring the trees to life, and we can't summon pixies to come and throw dust on our eyes to make us go to sleep or anything along those lines. Our magic is not Hollywood, basically. And a lot of people actually believe that pagans are capable of doing this kind of stuff. Now, some of the magics that pagans, or certain pagans can cast is in its own way very powerful. It has an influence on the world, but it is nowhere near as cinematic as what I've just described in any way whatsoever, and you'd be a fool to believe that. But unfortunately, there are a lot of people, I'm not insulting you, I'm not calling you fools, but you'd be a fool to believe that now that I've shown you how stupid it sounds. Have you ever seen anyone throw a fireball out their hand or whatever? People who do that are illusionists. They're magicians, okay? They are tricksters. That's all. They're not paganists. They're not pagans. They are tricksters. That's all. They make money out of entertainment. And good on them. But don't mistake their magic with our magic. The other thing, and this one is much more convoluted because some of it is loosely based upon pagan magic, pagan spells especially, but it is being what I like to call bastardized by the commercial system in this case. People like to make money, and to a lot of people, money is God. Okay, I'm sure many people listening to this video will be nodding their heads along with that. They look upon, they're strangers and that, and they look upon the world that we live in, the social structures that we live in. Everything revolves around commercialism. It revolves around making money out of someone else and getting richer while someone else is getting poorer. That's what the world is about. And so to survive this kind of world, we can't change the world that we live in, but to survive in this world that we live in, we do things that really we shouldn't do. And there are some people that sell magic to people who believe that what they're buying is genuine. Now, what I'm saying is that it may still have a benefit to those people. And if they like to buy these spells in a box that I've seen in a few sort of spell shops, witchcraft shops essentially, that's what it is. It's witchcraft. Okay, it's commercialized witchcraft. It's not real. It's completely fake. Okay, and it's based loosely on Wicca. And I don't mean to insult Wicca there, because Wicca is probably an older religion in its origins than Nordic paganism. In fact, it is an older religion if I understand it correctly. But Wicca is just like Nordic paganism was bastardized. So in the Victorian times, Nordic paganism was very popular amongst the aristocracy and the youth and the rich, essentially, of people who could get books published, essentially, amongst the Victorian people. And so what they did is they changed the way that the Vikings were presented, or at least their gods were presented, to represent a more sort of familiar present. So they look more like Roman or Greek gods. They also look like the Lady Britannia, for example. That looks basically as being based on Freya. So Freya's been taken and turned into Britannia. The woman with the shield and the spear and the long hair and stuff. That's all Victorian origination. Comes from Victorian origin. Sorry. And when they did that, there's nothing wrong with doing that, because it helps to keep some of the knowledge alive. But what they should have done, they should have said that this is what we see the Vikings as, but this is the original texts. These are the original information that we worked from. They should have cited what they did and referenced what they did. Okay? And it's the same with Wicca. A lot of Wicca these days is fake. You can't learn Wicca from a book. And if you are a Wiccan and you have bought a Wiccan Bible, if you wish, Wiccan, that's the only word I can think of, Bible, then you've been duped. You can't learn Wiccan from a book. You can only learn Wicca from a Wiccan, okay? Or from original accounts. Wicca was never written down. Wicca is a paganistic religion, just like Nordic paganism. And so, again, it was never written down. But it was not written down by those who practiced it. Instead, it was written down by those who witnessed others practicing it. So our knowledge of Nordic paganism is quite profound, actually. There's quite a lot of knowledge on it. But it's from a Christian point of view originally, and you have to translate obviously what they're saying and see that it's from a skewed perspective but it still gives insight, regardless of the fact that what they were doing was trying to outlaw essentially paganism. They actually did paganism a favor, because the Christian scholars who recorded these practices that pagans were doing and then forming laws based upon it, like getting 7 years for dancing around a maypole, for example, or whatever. I mean, ridiculous crimes and punishments such as this. I mean, we know why you dance around a maypole. You dance around a maypole during spring as a fertility rite, because the pole represents an erect penis, and you just dance around it, and you put, you know, we know that now. But obviously back then, they didn't understand what was going on. They recorded what they did, but they didn't understand the people, and they didn't understand the motivations behind what they were doing. Okay? But luckily, also, there were the Eddas and the poems that the Vikings themselves did write, or people just after the Vikings did write, Christian Vikings essentially did write. And so there is a lot of insight into what the original Nordic paganism was like. But with Wicca, unfortunately, there is not that same degree of records, so we say. Your religion will have to be learnt from, again, Christian recordings of what your religion was seen as in their eyes. You were seen as satanic worshippers. We all know that Wiccans aren't satanic worshippers. A lot of people to this day still believe it, but they're not. They don't believe in the devil, and they don't praise the devil. Okay, they praise the mother and the hunter, essentially. But within that, essentially, a lot of the practices, a lot of the ceremonies and that go with Wicca are fake. They've been made and created and put into books and put into spells in boxes, as I say, or spells in little plastic sheaves and stuff, or do-it-yourself spell kits, like where you can buy a candle that's either, you choose the colour of the candle, red for love, I think it is, black for a curse, white for luck, or whatever, whatever it might be. They even assign all the colours of the candles that you buy, and then you got to have a particular herb with it, like sage and all the rest of it, and then you got to say these particular words in this particular order, and you've got to have your left hand here, your right hand there, you'll have an altar and all the rest of it. This is not witchcraft, guys. This is witchcraft that is commercialized and being sold to you. Okay, that is witchcraft, sorry. I meant to say this is not Wiccan. This is witchcraft, which has been commercialized and sold to you. Wiccan is an ancient religion that was taught verbally, and so you need to go find, if you can, if there are any out there, I don't know if there are any more left out there, an original Wiccan, someone whose father or mother was a Wiccan, and so on and so forth, for several generations, or at least if they're not Wiccan themselves, they know the stories that their grandmother told them, for example, and are able to teach you in return. Okay, and so it's just, you see how certain religions within paganism can be corrupted by external influences, such as Christianity, in this case, but also the modern world, also commercialism. And it is a shame, but you really have to be strong and say, no, this is not believable, this is. You have to work out what's authentic and what's not authentic. And as I say, the side of the magic that you may think is real magic, like buying a love spell in a bottle, for example, pour this in his drink and he'll fall instantly in love with you, is complete bollocks. Okay, it's based loosely on some of the spells, and herbal sort of remedies that pagans may have used in the past, but it's complete bollocks today. Okay, what is given to you instead? What is magic? Magic is life, first and foremost. Magic is life. We ourselves are magic. The fact that we are here, self-aware, with sentience, with our blood pumping through our body and everything working in complete cohesion and complete order rather than disorder, that is the product of the Innengard. We are lawful. We are civilized. We are ordered beings in our bodies alone. Not alone that the fact that we have conquered the outside world to some degree and tempered nature and built buildings and houses that can survive the elements ultimately. We have brought order to a world, and we have done it in a very short period of time. And we've done this because, of course, Midgard is a direct representation of Asgard. And whether we like it or not, man is always striving to become more like Asgard or the Asgardians. We are striving to turn the world more like Asgard because we were made by Odin. We were carved from the trees, okay? And we were given the breath of ecstasy. The breath of ecstasy. That's exactly what it's described as, which turned us from the inanimate tree trunks that we were carved out of into living human beings. Now that is magic. And that's the magic of the gods. And that magic of the gods that flows through us, the life that flows through us and through every other single living creature on this planet, that is magic. And I will finish off with a brief description of where the magic can be kind of misinterpreted to some degree, but at the same time still an important practice to still be done. In 1,000 years ago, back in ancient Nordic periods, okay, where the ancient Norse would have obviously been ploughing the fields and growing crops to feed their families, to feed their peoples. They would, at the beginning of the farming season, obviously bring out the ploughs, and they would start to plough the fields and sow the seeds and prepare basically the soil to receive all these plants that they were planting, all these crops that they were planting, all the food that would feed their family and their people. Now, as they did this, more often than not, ahead of the plough, there would be a shaman or druid, as they are known amongst the Celtic people. So depending whether you're coming from Celtic people or Nordic people, druid or shaman, they're interchangeable terms. But there would be a shaman, and this shaman would be casting a spell, an incantation. He'd be using Galdar magic, most likely. He'd be singing. He would be a songsmith, what's known as a songsmith. He would be singing to the gods of fertility, asking for their blessing upon the soil, upon the seeds, and upon the farmers themselves, that the soil would be made fertile and would receive the seeds, and would receive the seeds wholly and fully, and that the seeds would grow into the biggest and strongest crops possible, and there would be no drought and there would be no famine. Now, that would be all inbuilt within the spell that the shaman would be casting, essentially, at the head of the plough. But if by simply uttering these words for, whatever period of time that the shaman got involved with, why the hell did the farmers plough the fields and sow the seeds? They did it because they knew. They weren't ignorant people. They weren't stupid. Okay, they knew that the crops would not grow unless they put the seeds into the soil. If they knew that the crops would not grow unless they ploughed the fields and put the seeds in, and then did whatever else they had to do to make the crops grow. They would have to tend to those lands for the next couple of months or whatever, or next 6 months, or however long it takes for crops to grow. I'm not a farmer, okay? And they would have to do this. They would have to work hard. Now, why go through and work so hard, get up at the crack of dawn, go to bed as soon as the sun at dusk? Why would you do this if magic had been used and that's all that was required for the seeds to grow? It's because they knew that it was the farming processes that they were using that made the seeds grow. But it was the will of the gods, and it was magic, ultimately, more so. Magic, not the will of the gods as such, because the gods did not get involved, really. But the gods could intervene. The gods could, for example, just bring a famine, or the gods could bring rain and a lovely sun to bring a great crop, for example. And that's why, the shaman would come, and why there'd be ceremonies such as, like May Day celebrations and, and all the rest of it. There would be festivals, there would be people dancing and singing, and all the rest of it. The reasons why these ceremonies and these festivals and these spells and these incantations were used was to show thanks, essentially. It was a way of saying, thank you, please, and almost not begging, but almost just saying, please, let there be no famine, let there be no drought, let the seeds work. We know what to do. We're men. We know how to plough fields. This is not the work of gods. We will work hard, but our work is done so that we may live and continue to live, and when we continue to live, we will continue to praise yourselves. We can't praise the gods whilst dead because we've died of starvation or whatever. And so it was really celebrating that the prayers were not asking the gods to help. It was more celebrating the fact that this miracle that you can put seeds in the ground and food would come up out of it at the end and would feed your family. This was magic. How can you turn seeds into food? Seeds that only birds and maybe a few insects can eat. And squirrels and things like this. Seeds cannot feed men, but the crops that come from the seeds can. Now, that is the true and absolute magic. How can you change one thing into another? How does the seed know when it's in the soil? Why doesn't it just start growing when it's on the table? Why does the seed know to grow up out of the soil towards the sun, where then it can be nourished by the sun? The sun can nourish it and feed that plant along with the waters from the rains. How does the seed know which direction to go? Well, it knows because it's actually able to detect gravity. This is science now. We know this. It's actually able to detect where gravitational pull is, and it will grow away from gravity. But how does it know that? It doesn't, because it's not sentient. It doesn't know it. It just does it. But this is the magic of life. And that's the point I'm making. Life itself, life within us, sentience, self-awareness, and life within non-sentient being, life bit forms also, and like seeds and trees and stuff like this, are amazing also. The world that we live in is an amazing place, full of life, and life itself is magic. And once you understand that life is magic, it's the manipulation of life that really is the true magic. Manipulating life, learning how to manipulate life to your advantages, such as planting seeds to get crops, that is a form of magic in its own right. But a magic user, a practitioner of certain types of magic that this series will be about, such as Gauda magic, Seda magic, so on and so forth, all still stems from that fact that the life is a cycle. There's creation and there's destruction, and that this cyclical process of a life and destruction, or creation and destruction, is itself turned and fueled by the cycle of fate. that fate goes in a circle also. If fate stops, life stops. Life does not stop existing. Life just stops, literally. It's as if time stops. Because fate, the turning of fate, causes the turning of time, which then allows life to progress as it does around us. And so in paganism, this is where magic is based on, these three cycles: fate, time, and time is very interlaced with fate, and of course life being the ultimate expression of magic. Okay, and that's why magic is such a beautiful thing within paganism. Okay, because you are working directly with life. Okay, even in forms of magic such as necromancy, communing with the dead, there's still an aspect of working with something that has died, i.e. the destruction, the Uttengard, with the Innengard. You are coming as an ordered being and are giving order. You are giving life, temporary life, to the dead, to allow you to speak and commune with them, to get answers for whatever questions you may have for them. And so even death magic still has life within it to some degree. Okay. As I say, this series will take a long time. It's a learning process. There's broad strokes at the beginning covering the entirety of the subject as a whole. And as those broad strokes cover the foundations, we will gradually pinpoint down towards the more important, not more important because the foundations are the most important aspect, but the more interesting, the more profound, the more literally what we would describe as magic. We will focus literally then on the spells, on the type of magic and everything like this. This is when the series will then become very specific towards magic and magic alone, and without really considering the basic tenets of life and fate and so on and so forth. But I hope that really opens up your mind to what is false, the shit in a box magic that you can buy down the store, down the road, and the amazing Hollywood magic that happens, because it is a form of magic on screen. It's great watching watching CGI go off and all the rest of it. You can see things that can never be seen, but nonetheless, it's still fake magic. These two types of magic don't exist. The magic that does exist is life. Believe it. And as we go on, I will hope to show you what I'm learning, regards connecting more so with life, because as you become more connected with life, as I became disconnected with life, I died 2 years ago. As I become more connected with life, you can feel almost other life forms. It's fantastic, and you can use that to your advantage when it comes to casting magic. Okay, but that's for another time and a long time away as well, because some of the magics that I will be talking about will be theoretical for a lot of you. Not everyone can cast magic. Only the very few, and only the very few of the few can cast certain types of magic. People like myself, like the Vala, for example, or the Volva, depending on how you want to pronounce our name, or the Berserkers, for example. These are individuals that are able to go into certain trances and cast certain spells that, such as shape shifting, in theory, is possible for men. Now, I'm skeptical on that, but nonetheless, it is apparently, and I've always known, possible for man. And so, there are certain magics that are available to only just the very few of mankind, but a lot of the magic is available to those who have some degree of ability with it. But remember, life is the ultimate magic.